Hello, Zooko. It's really great to chat.
Hello, Illia.
And yeah, it's been a second since we've seen each other, but yeah, been texting a bunch around this launch. So yeah, I mean, I'm Illia, co-founder of Near. We're building a lot of different technologies kind of across blockchain space, from blockchain itself to interoperability solutions, chain abstraction solutions, as well as AI solutions. So will be good to dive into all of this. Maybe introduce yourself as well.
I'm Zooko. I'm one of the founders of Zcash many years ago. And now I work at a nonprofit named Shielded Labs that's one of the current support organizations for Zcash.
Awesome. So we just had this launch a few days ago with Zcash being added to their intents. Uh, the response from community being amazing. I think the Zcash community is very engaged, also very strongly pushing for privacy, which is really excited. I think all the near people as well are like, holy shit, it's exciting to see such a powerful response. So yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
it's like two tribes have met, and it's exciting to find out there's another tribe there.
yeah. So maybe would be good to kind of from your side, maybe you can like introduce how obviously Zcash been involved. I mean, around for a long time. I think like when I was starting, Zcash was already around, um, and how you see kind of the Zcash playing in this like multi-chain world, and then we can talk about you know kind of what this means for intent as well, like some of the AI ideas we've been discussing.
I'm really excited about what we call interop, like Zcash interacting with other blockchains, because I'm more of a patriot for the ZEC asset than the Zcash blockchain. Like the Zcash blockchain is awesome. As you mentioned, it's a battle scarred veteran. It launched at the end of 2016. So I think it's one of the few crypto projects from that era that are still relevant,
More so,
actually.
yeah, it's still alive and kicking. So yeah, congrats to that, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm like
Yeah.
four
Thanks.
years in, and it's you can feel every
Yeah.
year.
Yeah. Yeah. Like those pictures of President Obama being all gray after being in the White House. That's me. Um, and so Zcash has all these great, like, sort of unique position and this great community, like you mentioned. And one thing it hasn't had is good trustless interop. Like until now, if Zcashers want to interact with the rest of the crypto world, they either go through a centralized exchange like Coinbase, or they use one of those instant exchangers like letsexchange.io, where you just send them your money and then you count on them sending you back different coins soon. Um, and I just played with the near intense integration today, and my simplistic understanding of it is it's currently in the current version of it, it provides basically the same functionality as Let's Exchange.io, except that instead of a centralized server on the other side, it's a smart contract running on the near blockchain on the other side. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so I mean, might be good to explain the architecture. So we have kind of set of technologies that are powering this, and they're all at different readiness of maturity, state of maturity. So the intent kind of at the end, right, is this idea that instead of prescribing how exactly there's exchange or any actually state transition should happen, you're just effectively asking someone to figure it out and give you that result, right? So for trading, it's simple. It's like, hey, I have some Zach, I want some BDC, but it also can be like way more complex. It can be, get me pizza at home, right? Type saying, or
Yeah.
I
So
want
it's
to
like
run marketing.
an abstraction beyond like a swap order or a limit order
Exactly, yeah.
in a
But
market I
it
use.
like one kind of important note. We also using this beyond. like trading and even beyond blockchain use cases. Like we think this is actually applicable across like whatever you put in Google, that is effectively your intent as well, right? Like I need a plumber, or I want to run a marketing campaign. So that's kind of the like, I mean, we're aiming toward that vision, right? Now, indeed the swap is probably the simplest, right, and most verifiable kind of module of that to ship.
Do the
So that's
simplest thing first.
yeah. And so the way it works, right? When you say, hey, for example, I have one near and I want some Zach, you're actually sending a kind of into this network of solvers. You're sending a request saying, hey, does someone wants to fulfill me this trade, right? And so anyone can respond saying, okay, cool, I'll take your one near and I will give you whatever the market price is for Zach. And while doing this, they actually sign on that commitment. So they respond you back with a commitment to actually do this exchange.
So can I interrupt? So that sounds like very similar to what I do with the centralized swappers like Let's Exchange.io. It seems like the difference is, uh, like, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone can run one of these solvers?
Correct. Yeah.
So
Anyone
it's
can join and
an
run the
open
solver.
marketplace, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so the solver, like there's an example solver code already open source for people to, play with this. If you want to run your own Zec, Zec to near, Zec to east, Zec to BTC, for example, with creative permission. So this is like
So when
fully
I
open.
did this swap earlier today, I swapped some Zec out of my shielded wallet in return for some ETH. And the reason I picked ETH is because ETH was already activated in my Brave wallet, the Brave web browser, and that's where it was going to go. So you're saying that when I did that, there was an open marketplace of solvers who
Bid is
offered
actually on.
to
Yeah.
satisfy, and whichever one won it got the like some transaction fees.
Yeah. I mean, they effectively bid on whatever price they would want to satisfy your trade, right? Which they include
Hmm.
their slippage and their effectively fee in that. And
Right.
so then you actually get all the quotes, right? So I mean, sometimes you get one, but you may get actually multiple. Your application will get multiple quotes, and your application chooses the best price. So the cool thing here, actually, effectively, these liquidity providers are bidding to get you to become their client.
Yeah, and what's really good about it is that as a user, I wasn't aware of any of that.
Exactly.
I just used near-intents.org or app.near-intents.org and entered in a pretty simple UI that I wanted to send Zec and receive ETH. And then it showed me the
The
offer,
price, yeah,
and I
exactly.
accepted. Yeah. And then it worked.
Yeah, and so that's kind of the mechanism on like for this kind of effectively it's an off-chain commitment protocol, right? Because like you're effectively finding and committing to something off-chain, then this settles on chain, and then when you want to deposit withdraw, we use this kind of chain signature technology, which is a multi-party computation of subset near values, but effectively holding the assets in different chains, right? So kind of in flight, right? And especially for liquidity providers for solvers, the assets are held by these MPC providers. Now, there's a caveat that for new networks, because it takes some time to get MPC new networks, this is like sometimes it's done through POA. So there is like kind of a transition period where first we added to POA and then we transition it to a full NPC network. And so that's kind of
So
the
this,
process.
so the Zec that I sent went into a Zcash spending key that was controlled by some proof of authority set of
Yeah,
nodes.
right now, yes. And then what it will get upgraded is it will be a key that is held by kind of a distributed MPC network of subset of validators. We're also putting that code itself into TEs as well to kind of secure this oblivious RAM to secure that and more. So that's kind of the progression here. Like, you start
Yeah.
like maybe more limited, security, but kind of ramping it up with more
So,
following.
so the near intense Zec support is currently in the POA stage, proof of authority stage. What assets are the furthest along in this security upgrade pipeline?
So BTC, Sol, Ethereum, mainnet are all kind of in like effectively already supported by OmniBridge. And so those are, I mean,
OmniBridge, that's the name of the
yeah. So OmniBridge is like kind of it,
higher security version of it.
yeah. I mean, it's effectively user chain signatures to hold assets and kind of and like among other things, it also can bridge assets between. So you don't need to use it for intents, but again, this is more of a developer tooling that intent just uses as a controller.
Right. Yeah. Which is thankfully hidden from the end user like me.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, that's a big kind of idea with the full chain abstraction we've been pushing is there's a lot of technologies that like the Web3 space is building, which are extremely important, but we actually make them products. Like the bridge is a product in
Yeah,
Web3,
yeah,
which is like very strange. Like as a user, I don't care about bridge.
yeah.
I care about using the app and just like things figured out on the back end for me.
Yeah, years ago, I was really excited about like cloud computing. Like you could rent server VMs quickly on Amazon Web Services or whatever. Um, but I always think of the current Web3 industry as being like as if you wanted to install Snapchat on your phone so you could send selfies to your friends, but then like it offers you an AWS app instead. You're like, what is this? I just wanted to send selfies to my friends. So like once it's mature, then my opinion is that approximately no end users will be aware of what blockchain. Like nobody who uses Snapchat knows whether it's using AWS or it's using a different service or data center or whatever. If they knew that, there would probably be something wrong. So I think it'll be like that with blockchain. It's like people they want to send and receive money, they want to invest, they want to send selfies to their friends. There's these things which I guess you call intents, which is what the user actually wants to do. And using Ethereum or Solana or Near or Zcash as a blockchain is not one of those things that they want to do.
Yeah, so that's been the thesis with Choke and been pushing on and kind of that's why we like building a lot of this tech under the hood, but trying to make UI as simple as possible, including yeah. So I mean, I think the one dimension to like discuss is how can we both bring more of this kind of mindset to Zcash, but also how do we enable Zcash users, especially the ones who are storing their assets in Zcash, right? So like it's actually in shielded pools to make it easy for them to use other applications in them kind of without like manually unshield, swap, bridge, like figure out how much gas I need to pay on another chain, etc., etc.
There's I've had some pretty miserable experiences trying to use bridges in those ways where you like load up multiple apps and web pages and then you find out you don't have the right token to pay the gas halfway through.
Yeah. So I mean,
Uh,
one of the ideas here, like kind of with this intent, is you can effectively say like, hey, I want to use whatever, I want to buy something on Pump and Fun, or I want to engage with I don't know, Hyperliquid or whatever, OpenSea, Magic Eden, and the idea that like I mean the same way solvers kind of find you like okay I'll satisfy you this token, they can also say hey I actually will execute this action on your behalf on that chain.
okay. Well, I've heard about intents a lot and Agoric's orchestration and chain abstraction and Near's, I don't know what's the word for the Near thing where validator nodes have a TE protected shard of a spending key. What's that called?
We call it
Chain
chain
signatures?
signatures. Yeah.
Right. That's cool too. I've heard of all these things, but now that you're telling me this, now that we're talking, you said you wondered about how to push the user interface in the right direction. So it just made me realize the question is, well, so the user interface is all controlled by the wallet or the app or the web browser. So whatever app the user knows the name of it, they know they launched the app on purpose, and they trust the app. Now the question is, uh, how do the app and the user communicate to each other about the user's intent?
Yeah, so I mean, we have one really interesting project actually that's doing this for Bitcoin. So it's called Satoshi Port, where you deposit Bitcoin into an address that is controlled by chain signatures. Um, and
Okay, hold
now,
on. Does that mean, can I interrupt you?
yeah,
I have some simple-minded, if there's anybody listening to this who finds this stuff as confusing as I do, they will appreciate that I just interrupted to say, hold on, you deposit. So that means I have some Bitcoin and I want to use this app called Satoshi Port, right? Now this app is a smart contract, right? So there's nobody who can steal my Bitcoin out of it.
correct. So
Okay, so what does it
it's a
do for
near
me?
smart contract. It's a near smart contract
Okay.
that through chain signatures has addresses on Bitcoin and other chains, right? So it can generate you a unique Bitcoin address where you deposit your Bitcoin. And now what it allows you to do is you can actually, in their app, open applications on different chains. So you can open, again, Solana from Bitcoin, you can open Hyperliquid, you can open OpenSea on Ethereum, and you can do an action there. It will translate that action into an intent, right? Like when you click it, right, it actually creates a transaction on
Like
in
what
that.
kind of actions can I do in
So
Satoshi
for
Port?
example, you want to like buy an NFT on OpenSea. So it
Okay.
actually they embed OpenSea directly into their application, so you can open it
Hmm.
inside. They inject,
In terms of the user interface?
yeah, they embed
Okay,
the
I
open.
gotta try this. I've never bought an NFT before, but maybe I will now that I can do so starting with my ZEC from my shielded pool, so nobody will know it was me.
Exactly. And but like the interesting thing here is that, yeah, so this allows to effectively under the hood do all the swapping, funding, even borrowing against Bitcoin. So you don't even need to sell your Bitcoin. You can actually borrow against it and then swap it into ETH and then fund a Ethereum account and then buy an NFT. And so the interesting thing is here with Zcash is to actually do the same, where you keep the Zcash, you don't spend it, but
Oh, that's
I mean,
interesting. But does that mean if I'm also naive and simple-minded about finance in addition to about technology? So does that mean if the
as a
price of
founder,
Bitcoin
financial.
goes down,
Yeah, so I mean, you can get liquid
does
on
that mean if the price,
this.
yeah, okay, that's what I was
Yeah,
getting at. So then if the
yeah.
price of Bitcoin goes down while I'm doing that, then I lose my Bitcoin and the thing that I was borrowing against my
The thing you
Bitcoin to
borrowed, you
buy?
keep. No, the thing you borrowed,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
But if the price of Bitcoin goes up in the meantime, then I get to keep the thing that I bought, that
and
I
the
borrowed
Bitcoin.
against my Bitcoin to buy,
Yeah.
and the Bitcoin. Okay, that makes sense. So
And
are you
so
going to
yeah,
add Zcash support for that too, so I can borrow against my ZEC and buy NFTs without letting go of my ZEC?
for example, yeah,
Nice, nice.
and
Is Satoshi Port your project, or is that another like independent
it's a team in the
company?
ecosystem that are building kind of on top of the technology, on top of the technology.
Nice, nice.
So if they're
Well, that's
listening,
neat. I
they
like
should
that
add that.
idea. Yeah, yeah. The difference would be if you use Zcash that you originally held in your shielded wallet,
Yeah,
then there'd be no link back to the source of your funds or your other transactions through your ZEC.
exactly.
I like the idea of like holding on to it, although I don't like the idea of getting liquidated and losing all my ZEC. So
Well, you know the saying, right? If the price goes down, you just need to buy more.
can you do that in Satoshi Port and like put more in so you don't get liquidated?
I mean, you can, yes, yeah.
Can I register an intent to automatically buy more and put more in so that I don't get liquidated?
Yes, that is actually where AI comes in.
Uh-huh. Really?
Well,
Send me the address for that.
we we have the other piece of technology in building is this TE cloud, which effectively allows to have. I mean, we call them agents, but it's literally just programs which can use AI, which run inside TE. So you have effectively both verifiability and privacy, and we
Okay,
actually
can I
allow.
stop you?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm a user, and there's this program which is an agent. So it's just a program. It's like a Rust program or something, right? And I want to delegate some of my property or my authority to this agent. And because of the TEE, then as long as they can't break the TEE security, then I
Property.
know it will do whatever the Rust program said it would do. Is that the main thing? And also, it could have like a secret key, or it could do some stuff and then not disclose to the company that owns the machine with the TEE in it what it did, so I could get some kind of privacy out of that. Okay, carry on. Go on,
And
wherever you were.
and so you can pair that with smart contracts and chain signatures, right? So that that program can have that. It can, do all the same things. You can have a smart contract to verify even potentially, something like some property that in case, I mean, highly unlikely, but if there's any vulnerabilities inside TE, like you can have like additional guardrails, like don't spend all the money or whatever, or have some delay, etc. So there's
Right, so you can
extra,
layer
yeah, you can kind of
you can
defensively
layer
in
the
depth with smart
right
contracts and
the TE can prevent the secret key from getting used outside of the Rust code or whatever code it is that I originally chose to delegate my Zcash to. And then additionally, if that were to break, how can the smart contract protect something? Well,
so
how's that
so
other layer of defense work?
yeah, so on Near, we can actually have like the private key that the TE has doesn't need to be a full access key. It can be a limited access key, which only allows to, for example, call a message, a function call on a smart contract. This
Right.
function call can
Yeah.
verify that, hey, maybe like only 10% of money can be involved in a single transaction or per day or per hour or whatever. And so this would allow to like limit, potential uh, liabilities there. Again, this is in the unlikely, highly unlikely event of somebody literally, figuring out how to break the TE, which so far the only known vulnerabilities are all around like very sophisticated, side channel attacks, which require a lot of like kind of a, a lot of way to coordinate what actually the program does inside the TE itself. And like Oblivious RAM actually fixes a lot of that. So like if you use Oblivious RAM for key storage, you like all of those attacks effectively. I mean, there's no known attacks.
Okay, so I'm not 100% up to date on the history of attacks on TEEs, although I was at one point, I think. Um, but I really liked the part about the smart contract enforcing a sort of fine-grained capability. There's this computer security theory called object capability access control that's all about that. And something I really like about it is that it ideally merges computer security sort of layers of defense and all this infrastructure issues. Ideally, the object security capability model merges that with the user's intent, right? But that's a question of UI. Like, does the user know how to tell the computer what they intend or what they don't intend? I think that's a really rich area for improvement. There's a thing called the Norm Hardy Prize. Norm Hardy was this great computer scientist who I knew in person because in computer science we are privileged to rub elbows with the giants upon whose shoulders we stand. I forget which giant said that first, but anyway, so there was this great computer scientist named Norm Hardy, and there's a prize in his honor, which is all about the specific question of secure user interaction design. And I think the most important, or almost the only question in there is how does the computer know what the user meant, and how does the user say what they mean? Or how does you could go the other way, like how does the user know what the computer meant, but I think that's generally the wrong direction to go. Like, for example, um, I'll be using app.near-intents.org and the Brave web browser and my Zcash wallet today. And at one point, one of them, I guess it was the Brave web browser, popped up this dialogue. This is not a criticism of Brave or of near intents. This is just like, it's an early stage, and we all have a lot to learn and improve by experience. So anyway, Brave web browser, the wallet built into Brave popped up this like dialog box that says app.near-intents.org is asking you to sign the following transaction. And then there was this giant blob of like JSON. And I don't know if it was JSON or what, but I actually read the whole thing. It's like a timestamp, there's a hash, there's this and that. And then there was the part that's the intent part, right? I intend to swap this many ETH or this many ZEC for that many ETH, etc. And I keep thinking this is something that somebody should apply for the Norm Hardy Prize and get a whole bunch of money for solving this. But I keep thinking this is entirely the wrong direction. The computer, namely Brave, is trying to explain to me what app.nearintents.org said to Brave. So it's very hard for me to understand it. Like maybe one of those hashes, there was a nonce. I was like, what does that nonce do? Maybe there's some kind of malicious mistake in here. I'm going to lose all my money because I misunderstood what it was telling me. And you could imagine Brave and Near trying to explain it to me in more understandable terms. You could have an AI that like reads it off and explains to me what the pieces do or whatever. But maybe that's just entirely the wrong direction. The computer should not be telling me stuff. I should just tell the computer stuff, right? I told it I wanted to swap 10 ZEC for 1 ETH or whatever it was. I just want to know if you understood me correctly, computer. Don't tell me about all that other stuff. Anyway, I'm just rambling, but
Yeah,
like
no, I
I
mean
think the
that's a good
human,
point.
like the computer should be understanding the human more and not trying to explain stuff to the human.
I mean, it is where AI is going effectively. I think the next evolution of UI, and we actually working on some of that. Like we're trying to rethink, like, okay, well, if you imagine you start from scratch and like you throw away everything, all the UI stuff we've done so far, right? Right now, kind of all the AI effectively just end up in the chat, right? Like you're just talking to them. But obviously, chat is like it's not a optimal solution for every single interaction because you want a better presented artifacts
Hmm.
or specific things. Like if I'm ordering a taxi, I want to see a map to see where it is. Like it is
A map.
useful to have,
Yeah, that's a
right?
good point.
So you
Yeah.
want this kind of rich elements, but this rich elements should be coming back from, we call them agents who are actually doing the work, right? So in the case what you're describing, in a way, it's like the agent, in this case, the solver, that is effectively understanding your intent, they should return you back a UI that kind of actually explains to you what you're getting.
Right. I guess there is a little information I did want, which is how much I would pay.
Yeah. Well, which again, like the UI actually showed you that. The problem where the
Yeah, I did.
disconnect is like your wallet versus the app is different things,
Right,
right?
right.
And
Like
so
the way app.near-intent.org explained it to Brave, and then Brave wanted to explain it to me to make sure I was okay with it.
yeah,
That
that's
could
where
use
the
a
break
lot
is. Yeah.
more.
So, but
Yeah,
but but this goes
interesting.
back
So
to
okay,
like,
I guess I'm actually interested in intents after all now.
but I mean, this goes back to there's a Zcash wallet, right, that you use, and that wallet can embed the intent protocol itself, right? Like near intent is just the demo UI of the protocol. Ideally, the wallet that has the capability of understand, like capturing user intents, would use that protocol directly instead of having this kind of the website explaining the wallet what needs to be done. And so I think that's where
Right. Now,
one of the opportunities is.
yeah, and there are some there's some live user interfaces that you can play with, or whoever's building this can play with to learn from, or the makers of those user interfaces could upgrade to add this. I'm thinking of the one that I've used the most often is Edge Wallet. EDGE wallet. It's a multi-coin wallet which includes shielded Zcash and a ton of other coins. And it has a built-in front-end user interface to those centralized instant exchanger services. And it does something that's a lot like what Near Intense is doing, but worse, but different. But it's a really good to learn from because it's really a very like the user's intention and desire at the start is really the same, and the fact that you don't leave the Edge wallet is a really big user experience upgrade, right? You never go load a different web page and cut and paste or scan anything from any other web page. So you load up this one app and you just keep that one app foregrounded on your phone the whole way through. And you tell it, I want to swap 10 ETH for 1 ZEC or whatever. And then it does a whole bunch of clunky, insecure, sketchy stuff, which is it talks on the back end, oblivious, like without bothering the user too much with this. It talks to all these instant exchangers like Let's Exchange.io and several other ones. And it says to them, how much would the slippage and the fees be if I used you and so forth. And it picks one and then it sends my funds to that one and then hopes that that one gets back to us with the other funds later. But okay, so the current, like you said, it was the app.near-intent.org is just like a demo app of the underlying infrastructure. I agree, as a fan of infrastructure, I think that a lot of the Near ideas are really cool and interesting and promising. But what Edge Wallet has is that they've already run, tens of thousands or however many hundreds of thousands of users through this flow over and over and dealt with probably a zillion complaints and objections and suggestions from all the users. So, okay. So my point is, I guess Edge Wallet should look into Near Intents and vice versa.
Yes, but also so is Zashi as well, right? Like ideally, all the wallets can embrace itself as well.
Yeah, Zashi is actually my favorite daily driver wallet, which I go to first. Like if I'm onboarding someone to Zcash, buying coffee, or buying Chipotle, I go to Chipotle and get a burrito bowl and pay from Zashi. But it's currently Zcash only, so it can't do a swap without leaving the app. Now I did use Zashi for the source of the swap I did today, because it has my ZEC in the shielded pool. So whatever I do with it, basically, it retains my privacy in the sense that whatever I do with it can't be linked back to the original source of my funds or my other ZEC pool or anything else I did with it.
So here's actually the interesting thing, because intents effectively just need any cryptographic signature. So if you start with Zcash, you can actually the deposits are just a transfer, and you can actually do all the trading on intents with just signing a message. Like it's not actually a transaction. You didn't need a Near account to trade on intents. Like you can use, and so in theory, that actually can actually offer that experience where you can, through your Zcash wallet and Zcash key, hold assets on like kind of other chains. And then if you want to withdraw it to the real wallet, like to the actual Bitcoin wallet, you can do that. But
that is interesting. So what you're saying, let me echo it back, but kind of object to part of it or refine it. So what you're saying is, because of the Near chain signatures thing, and maybe the intents and maybe the TEs and all the different technologies,
all the background tech, yeah,
that a wallet that has no secrets other than a Zcash spending key can control a smart contract running on Near, which controls like a Bitcoin spending key. Is that right? That's really cool. But my objection is, you still need the UI. Like even if your wallet that you're looking at doesn't have any Bitcoin spending keys, maybe it doesn't have the code to generate signatures on using Bitcoin spending keys, that's fine. But the other part, which is really important and critical, is the UI? Like, does it show you a Bitcoin balance? Does it have buttons that control your Bitcoin balance? So it's interesting. But
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, that would be the integration for Flash to do, which is like adding some of those kind of displaying
yeah.
assets and
So
transfer.
for people that don't know, Zashi is this really great Zcash wallet, and it's made by the Zcash organization that I currently have no affiliation with. The Electric Coin Company, it's called. They're a super great high-powered team, which I founded and built many years ago, but I'm long gone from directly working with them, and I work for this completely other separate thing called Shielded Labs. Um, so I can't speak for Zashi, but yeah, that would be awesome if Zashi added all those features. And I wouldn't be surprised if they would, because for the last year or so, they've been like heavily investing in user-facing quick feature upgrades. Like they've added completely new things, like the fact that you can buy your burritos from Chipotle, which is my favorite feature. You can also buy all this other stuff, Bed Bath and Beyond and Ulta makeup and all this other like retail stores. But and they recently just around Christmas, I think they raced to have this shipped before Christmas as a Christmas present to the Zcashers. Integration with a hardware wallet, so you can keep your signing key even further offline on a physical hardware wallet device. Anyway, my point is the Zashi people have been rapidly adding user-facing features. So I wouldn't be surprised if the users were demanding it, if they added different coins and near intent based swaps and all kinds of stuff. But I can't promise anything like that because I have nothing to do with them.
Well, that's a decentralized world, right? We just highlight the direction and then you know hope that other folks can follow the afterward. So maybe switching a little bit gears, because I mean I've personally been doing a lot more work on AI and kind of we are using the same intent architecture for the AI interactions. That's why we're building this kind of T infrastructure as well, because we think that, you know, otherwise, like doing stuff on chain, I mean, just the overhead is massive. This actually gives you a very good balance of like verifiability and actual practical confidentiality, which no other solution offers you for actual AI workloads. But one of the challenges, obviously, we've been discussing is that all the transactions are completely transparent. And so, although you have all your AI um, kind of agents running inside confidential computing, and nobody knows what kind of the actual actions or inputs outputs are going. But if all the transactions are transparent, then so I mean, I this can be like from ordering pizza and burritos to interacting, a trading algorithm that actually makes trades. And like if everybody sees all the trades linked together, obviously you can start reverse engineering the algorithm and actually front running it, which is uh, highly undesirable. So, I mean, we chatted a little bit, kind of async around some of this, like how shielded pools and shielded transactions can be useful. There's some ideas we've been discussing. I posted this idea because we actually have a 1 trillion agent hackathon going, where kind of this idea that there going to be a lot of agents in the future. And one of the ideas was like, hey, can we have an agent that effectively like shuffles your money back and forth between let's say Near and Zcash. And although they're um, I mean, we can discuss the exact kind of concerns with that solution. It can offer some practical, hey, you put some money into this pool, it kind of shuffles it in, and over time, kind of accumulates it back on different addresses and stuff like this. Um, but yeah, I'm curious, kind of how you think about this world going in the future, and especially also kind of interaction between kind of Zcash and what are some of the things we're building on the ISL.
Well, My short answer is definitely not going to work today. Maybe not work tomorrow. Like there's a super common just concept on the part of people when they think about privacy, which is most people assume that privacy works like what we call a mixer. That like they let me explain what that I mean by that. They assume that you're going to start with your asset over here where your enemy can see it, either because it's in a bank and your enemy has access to the bank, or it's on a blockchain and it's a transparent blockchain or whatever. And what most people think they want is I want to take this and do something to it to make it private and then move on after I've done the thing, which is what I tend to think of as the mixer paradigm. Like the thing in the middle is a mixer that's going to add privacy or privatize or break the link between the first step and the third step. And my first answer, so I will respond to your idea and refine it in a minute. I mean, refine, like, question my own certainty in a minute. But first, let me say 100% certain that's just never going to work. Like, um, you can't add privacy in the middle step because privacy is what you lose when information leaks. And you leaked information in the first step and the third step. So even if the thing in the middle is like the world's best thing for not leaking any additional information, it doesn't matter because you already leaked enough information in the other two steps to lose your privacy. So even if it leaks zero additional information because it's like the perfect black hole, it doesn't help. So that's like the simplistic answer. And that's absolutely what's true today. Like, there's a lot of data points. I read all the court documents and newspaper articles and police reports and like security analysis, like audit reports and all kinds of stuff all the time to try to make like double check my understanding of the security stuff because it's like my favorite hobby is learning about security stuff. And there's a lot of examples I can give where people had that assumption that what we need to do is break the link between starting point and ending point, and we're going to get some kind of technology to do that for us in the middle, and they 100% failed. Here's my favorite example. There's this instant exchanger named Shapeshift, or there was. It went out of business, or the government put it out of business. But for quite a few years, maybe mostly before you started, you said you were in year 4 of your crypto
Well,
battle
since mainnet,
experiment.
4 years since mainnet.
Oh,
So
4 years
now,
since mainnet. Okay,
yeah,
yeah. So that makes you
now,
a battle scarred veteran too. But so you may or may not remember that for many years in the early days of crypto, Shapeshift was the dominant instant exchanger. It was by far the most widely used instant exchanger. And instant exchanging was one of the most widely used use cases in the whole world of crypto at that time. And some computer scientists, security researchers from a university, I think it was University Cambridge London, which is a really good computer science research university. They looked at the logs of all of the users ever of Shapeshift for like 3 years or whatever. A lot of logs, right? And they said, huh, the most common thing anyone ever did with Shapeshift for the first 3 years was they brought some Bitcoin or Litecoin or whatever. They swapped it for Monero or Zcash. And then they swapped it back to the original thing. They brought Bitcoin, swapped it, and get left with Bitcoin. So A, they paid some fees to Shapeshift. B, they were probably trying to gain privacy. And C, they gained no privacy because our grad students just de-anonymized all of them in order to get a paper published. um, so my point is, until now, that has never worked. And the current state of the art of that is Monero. Not to be negative, but Monero basically has a similar architecture where there's like a step in the middle. Maybe it's different, but my point is everything that and Tornado Cash, that's a very popular one, very widely used, very widely understood, and it never worked. Like almost nobody got almost any actual privacy out of Tornado Cash. It's a PhD researchers from UCL can probably de-anonymize all the 90% or 99% or something of all the Tornado Cash users just to get a publication. Why? Just for the very simple reason that the information emitted at the beginning and the information emitted at the end is already too much information to keep you safe. So it doesn't matter how good Tornado Cash was about not emitting additional information in the middle. Okay, so if I stop there, this like takes us up to 2025. I think that's the current state of the art. And there is still hope in 2025, which is privacy doesn't come from money in motion. Privacy comes from shielded money at rest. And we have the example to prove that one too, which is the Zcash holders who have ZEC in their shielded wallets. If they swap it through Let's Exchange.io, or much better through app.near-intents.org for Ethereum or whatever, there's zero information. Like the first step leaked zero information. And then the last step, which is now you have ETH in your Ether wallet, that leaks a whole bunch of information about how much ETH you have, when you got it, how you paid the fees, or whatever, right? But that's okay because there's zero information about you or your original holdings or anything else you've previously done. So, current state of the art, privacy comes from money at rest, and just you cannot add privacy to money in flight. But the question is, will that change in 2026 because of AI or something? I don't know. Maybe I think it reflects on a bigger question. So let me talk about the narrow computer security and privacy thing that I have over specialized for 30 years or however long I've been doing this. Very narrowly, definitely doesn't work today. In the future, if both like the adversary has an AI that's trying to analyze you, like today's Chainalysis and Arkham and whoever else, and you also have an AI that's trying to protect you, which one will win? I really don't know. I wouldn't bet too hard on either one because I think it's easier for any kind of intelligence, human or AI, to detect patterns than to generate fake enough convincing enough fake patterns to confuse the other guys. I think I would bet on the spy still at this point. But maybe, I don't know, that's complicated. But actually, okay, I want to let you respond, but then I want to zoom out to something that you've said that's really inspiring to me. Okay, what were you going to say?
Yeah. I mean, we should talk about the higher level, but I mean, so I agree with you that like if you literally put $5.7 worth of Bitcoin into Zcash and then withdraw back 5 point whatever 69, you pay the fee like 1 cent in the fees.
Yeah, just
That
what all
is
those people
highly
did on Shapeshift
that
for
is
all those years.
highly traceable, right? Now imagine there is a pool of let's just for simplicity like dollars, right? And it exchanges them into a fixed amount of Zcash, right? Like it's like a cash bills of Zcash, right? Like once into once, and it's doing that like constantly, just like at all times. There's always like that process happening. Now, I as a user can come in, I can deposit more money into that pool, and the registry that I deposited is stored in TE, right? So the registry itself is encrypted and stored in TE, and this pool is just continuous, like moving things around.
Maybe, but the first, as an attacker, you know how we in cryptography like to think like the bad guy. So as the attacker in this scenario, my first move is just not even to look at the thing in the middle, right? Like it's got encryption, zero knowledge proofs, TEs, whatever. I don't really care about that. I'm just going to look at all the behavior that I can see of the users at the start, the behavior that come, over time. But there's a lot more that I'll do as an attacker, and this is something we've learned from cryptography: is that attackers go on.
No, I just wanted to let's finish the structure. So the structure is there's a pool that withdrawing and depositing, but when it withdraws right outside, it puts it always on new address. So you always have like one Zcash worth of dollars on new addresses on there. And so when I want to spend some, like, it's effectively, instead of money in rest in Zcash, I'm trying to keep money in rest in dollars, but they are effectively been split, like they effectively been mixed through Zcash and split into individual addresses. And so only when I need it, I kind of joined it back. Like only subset that I need to spend, I join back from and then spend it. So in the way I'm trying to use the Zcash kind of ZK part and then tease as a like record keeping of the affecting the shielding.
Right.
And
Well, so far it kind of sounds a lot like the Tornado Cash model. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you know, but just before they got shut down by the different arms of the U.S. government, they were in the process of launching an upgrade to Tornado Cash, which allowed the users to keep and transfer their assets without leaving the shielded pool, would have been a major improvement.
which
It's
I
called
think
Tornado
is the
Cash Nova.
which is the main unlock effectively. Yeah, like if you can, because now like you can keep everything in shielded pool, right?
Right. Okay, so basically, I'm pretty skeptical. Like the thing you just said, no offense, I think you're super smart and know a lot of things and have to come up with a lot of good ideas. But the one thing that I'm an expert at is this one little thing. And so far, your idea doesn't sound very promising. If I had to go put a bet on Polymarket today, I would say, oh yeah, the chain analysis is going to rip that to shreds.
All right. Well, we need to keep thinking about it. All right. So
Yeah,
maybe
I think there's, yeah. Oh, but something you said really inspired me. I, I think there's a really awesome, like, I was thinking the other day, because what you said was something like, what's the user, how does the user interact with an AI? You and I, or at least I, and probably you, are assuming that there exists an AI whose only interest is serving the user. Like, there's a whole different dystopian world where the AI works for Google and I think it works for me, but it doesn't actually serve my interests.
it
That's
makes money for Google, right?
manipulating me
That's
on
his job.
behalf of Google.
Yeah.
That's let's assume we don't go there. I'm definitely not going there. But assuming there's an AI that works for you, then I think it's really interesting. Like I was thinking about this progression of like Web 1.0 to Web 2.0, where what do I think? I don't know if this is accurate or the right terminology, but like, what was I doing? I wanted to buy something or find a store that was open or something the other day. And I was thinking, the way I'm going to go about this is ask the Brave browser search engine for information about the store. And then I'm going to navigate to the store. And then I'm going to have to try to figure out how the store's user interface works to find if they have the product that I want. Oh, it was light bulbs. I was looking for light bulbs yesterday. It was a pain in the butt. Like first I went to Amazon. So I didn't even go to the search engine. I went to Amazon. I was like, show me the right kind of light bulbs. And it gave me all the wrong results, like the wrong kind of light bulbs. And I tried and tried and tried. They even have a built-in AI in Amazon. I was like, anyway, that didn't work. So then I went to like a Brave browser search engine or Google search engine or something. I was like, can you show me where to find the right kind of light bulbs? That didn't work. And then I was thinking, this is going to be really, really radical because this is ineffective. And a lot of people have a lot less sophistication and patience than I do for dealing with this stuff. Like a lot of people can't remember or tell which website they're on, right? I don't know if you. I'm giving tech support to like my mom. This classic computer geek example of the computer geek's mom. But I give people tech support often, and they don't know which website they're on. Really, they don't. They don't know the name of it or the URL or what website it is. They're just trying to get their question answered, and they're just waiting for it to see an answer. Anyway, but this is really promising. If we get a user loyal AI, then it can give them what they actually want, which is just find me the damn light bulbs of the right kind. And I don't want to know whether it's Amazon or bulbs.com, whether you use Google search or Brave search or anything else about it. I just want the light bulbs. And that really matches what you've been talking about intents, which I still don't really understand, but I'm starting to get slightly interested in. And and it'd really be revolutionary if it happened because currently the network effects that allow big tech companies to monopolize things, I think are completely blown away by my mom having a trusted agent that she can ask to get her whatever she wants. It really eliminates or completely changes all of the network effects. It's really interesting. Anyway, so maybe I think AIs are not really going to help with fixing the mixer. I don't think the mixer will ever get fixed, even by AIs, but I could be wrong. But I think they might help by fixing like the Google, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what we're working on. And we do need also privacy on the user balances and kind of
Yeah.
spending side,
No,
right?
I agree. No, I agree. It's really important to pay attention to what the users actually want instead of telling them they shouldn't want that. So there's a lot of users, what they want is to take their Bitcoins, privatize them, and still have their Bitcoins. I just don't think it's possible, but it should be on us to figure out something that we can either offer them a product or teach them or something. But in the meantime, the early adopters who know what's what are just holding Zec instead and actually getting privacy.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I totally that's been kind of the main goal is like how do we enable like with this platform shift that's happening from indeed using Google and Amazon and effectively all those products that are there to make money on you to what if your assistant will look like, right? And actually, for your assistant to be really useful, it needs to know as much as possible about you. And so you kind of naturally, this becomes the most knowledgeable thing that has access to all your information, to all your banking, crypto, etc. And that is, I mean, makes everybody uncomfortable when you describe it that way. And so privacy is extremely important in that case because,
Absolutely.
um, yeah,
And I think we can learn a lot from modeling on certain
absolutely.
human relationships, especially lawyers, doctors, executive assistants. So I have been privileged in the last 8 years since Zcash launched to have lawyers work for me and an executive assistant or two that have helped me remember my meetings and answer my emails and stuff. And I think most people haven't had that experience, right? Most people have never had a lawyer work for them. Um, but I think those who have should pay close attention to like the norms and the relationship because I think that's probably the best indicator of what the relationship between a person and their AI will or should be like. And the number one rule, as far as I've noticed, having worked with many lawyers in many contexts for the last many years, the number one rule is what they call the duty of loyalty. Is this really important norm in American, at least, legal culture, which is if a lawyer works for you, it is 100% unacceptable for them to also work for anyone else that might interact with you, right? Like if a lawyer is your lawyer and they have some kind of side deal with the other person that they didn't mention to you, that is so unacceptable that if anyone found out, they would just lose their license and never be allowed to work as lawyer again. Might go to jail, depending on the details. And that's a really, really strong cultural norm in American law. And I really think this was inspired by a venture capitalist named Albert Winger many years ago, who was quite ahead of his time, I think. But he wrote a blog post or something that I read, which said that needs to be the norm for AI. Like, if an AI says, I'm here to help you, tell me information about yourself, your intentions, your private information, whatever, and I'll help you. If that AI has any loyalty or incentive or side deal with Amazon or anybody else that might be benefiting off of you, that's completely unacceptable. That should never be allowed.
Yeah, so we need to work toward that. That's not the current state.
Yeah. Yeah. Scary.
Even the model training process itself, like even with open source models, they're actually not open source. They open parameters, so we don't actually know when it
Oh,
which one. So we're approaching an hour, so I just wanted to kind of round up. I mean, there's a lot to continue kind of innovating on both sides. We do
yeah.
have in our AI hackathon, we do have a Zcash AI bounty for people who like
Okay.
doesn't need to be what we were just discussing.
Is it
If it doesn't
is it
work,
going to try to fix the? I mean,
you
it's
can you can do other
we
things as
can
well.
learn from the attempt.
It can
This,
also just be the one that uses your Zcash address and spends it on things that you want people to spend on. There's
that's
there's
interesting.
many different
Hmm.
different things to do. And then obviously
Hmm.
the other thing is for Unshielded Zcash, you can also now do a lot more with it on near, because actually as you deposit it through Intense, it actually becomes a token on in near ecosystem. So you can do
Okay.
borrowing and other DeFi stuff as well. So I
Right.
think
Maybe I'll
there's a lot
try
of
that next. The main thing I wanted to do was swap, and I've successfully done that. But I've never I've never bought an NFT yet, and I've never lent or borrowed any crypto yet. Um, Maybe I'll try that next.
yeah, sounds good. Well, bringing Zooko more on chain. That's I need
Yeah,
a T-shirt for that.
I've been waiting. I've been waiting until I could do so without linking it to my like true name and home address and whatever.
Sounds good. Well, it was a great conversation. Thank you very much. Excited,
Yeah,
excited to continue
thanks.
working together.
Yeah, likewise. All right, looking forward to next time.